Well, good morning, everybody. I know normally the first thing that you see isn't me, so sorry about that for you today. But hey, no, in a serious note, we wanted to start off today just acknowledging what's kind of happened in our world and the situation with Ukraine, and just take a moment to pray and talk about that. And as I was thinking through this, I came across a quote online, because I think these things pop up and we wonder what it is practically that we can do. Like, it's half a world away, and it seems like there's really not a lot that we can contribute. But I read this, and I think it's really helpful, so I want to share it with all of you. It says, the suffering we see in this world isn't just to make us grateful for our blessings. The suffering we see is to lead us to pray and work for healing. I think that regardless of what it is that we feel we should do, and I believe there might be something that each of us is called into that's a little different. That's kind of how the body works, right? But something we can all do is pray. Sometimes we don't know exactly what we should pray, but I think if we just get before God and we start to let our heart leak out a little bit, that some good stuff will come out. So that's just what I want to take some time and do. So if you're sitting in the seats and you're a follower of Jesus, I would encourage you to go ahead and pray alongside of me for the thing that's happening in Ukraine and Russia. So let's spend some time and do that together. Lord, there's just part of me that's so sick and tired of hearing about stuff like this that happens, and it just brings a big weight to my heart. You see, I just remember seeing online or the news, whatever it was, a video of a plane, and then you hear a little child scream, and it just makes me angry. Makes me angry at people that would do such things and just be so concerned with power that they would be willing to let people suffer for that. But the reality is the broken world is what we're in, so I pray that you just wade into the mess. I pray that those who are suffering, who are hurting, would feel you in a new way. I pray that whether it's a vision or a dream or practically a person, that they would sense your presence in a new way, and you would remind them of who you are and how you came so that we could experience things like joy and peace, even in the middle of situations like that. I pray for the leadership of Russia and Ukraine and even the world, and I pray that this violence would just stop. But regardless, I pray that you would walk into the mess, and because of it, more people would know who you are and understand how much you love them. We put it all in your hands, and we trust you, because sometimes that's the only thing we can do. And I ask it in Jesus' name, amen. Hey, we're going to start out by singing a song a little different than we normally open up with, but I know that some of these things, as you can see for me, sometimes they just feel heavy. So if you want to sit and listen, we would encourage you to do that. But if you want to stand and sing with us, we would also encourage you to do that as well. So let's go ahead and start this morning off this way.
To I don't know about you, but aren't you glad those words are true? And as Adam said, it's like the earth is shifting under us the last couple of years with the events this week. Where's that firm foundation? Where's the place we can anchor? And that's why we're here today, because we have a God who is faithful to us and will never let us down. I've let people down. You have. Jesus will never let you down. So anyhow, my name is Craig Mays. I'm a teaching pastor, and it's my honor and joy to welcome you today, both here in person. Boy, we're filling in the seats now. And those of you that are home, it's okay, but we have room for you here, so we would love to see you back when the time is right for you. But we're just glad either way that you've joined us today. We have a great service that's planned today, and I really only have one announcement to make. And so women, pay attention. And men, if you have a woman in your life, which means a mother, a daughter, a sister, an aunt, a grandmother, a next-door neighbor, so that's all of you, your job is to make sure the women do what I'm going to tell them to do now, okay? To encourage them, make it happen, provide a way for this to happen. So I want to talk about the IF gathering that's happening next weekend on Friday evening and Saturday. And it's an interesting name, isn't it? An IF gathering, like if I should go or not go. But it actually is a movement that started in 2014, and it's based on this idea. If God is real, then what? And so women have been gathering more every year. And in fact, this year we're expecting, we know it's going to be in all 50 states. It's a simulcast. It's going to be in 40 countries, and it's going to be in about 4,000 different locations. And so women in coming together here know that there's a movement of God among women, and it's going to be a great conference. So here's the way it works. Friday night, simulcast from your home. So on your computer or your laptop, you watch some inspiring messages or talks and get encouraged. And then Saturday, you get up and you come here to this building. And it's simulcast here, but you get to be with other women. We're going to have a meal together. We're going to have worship. We're going to have some breakout sessions. And so we really want you to get involved in this. And the goal, by the way, is to know, as a woman, as a follower of Jesus, how do I navigate this world that we're in with the changing culture, the changing world? How do I really follow Jesus? I know you're going to be encouraged, so please plan to come. You can see there. It's very easy. Just go to our website or go to the hub afterwards out in the center and either sign up or get more information on how you can do that, okay? And men, if it means babysitting, dog watching, grocery shopping, I don't know, whatever it is, you do it so they can go, okay? We hope to see you here. Speaking of hub, by the way, if you are new, the hub is the center of our lobby. You see people in orange shirts mostly. Don't be afraid of them. They're here to help you. They're here to answer your questions, help you volunteer, help you sign up for a Bible study. Whatever you need, the hub is the place to go. So we really encourage you after the service, if you're here, especially for the first time, to make your way to the hub. And we do have a special gift for those who have come first time. It's a brand new car. Just kidding. I'm in so much trouble right now. But we'd love to meet you and learn your name. So, all right, so I don't have another announcement, but I have a guest I want to invite out to join me right now, a friend, a fellow staff member, Sherry Horning. She is the director of our K-Kids. That's, give her. Sherry, hi, Sherry.
Hi.
You've been on staff now for 9 years.
9 years.
Can you believe that? Working with kids for 9 years, isn't that awesome? And you have 6 wonderful staff members that work with you, so that's quite a team that you have.
Yes.
So what I wanted to do real quickly was just talk a little bit about the pandemic. When COVID hit, we ended up shutting everything down, but how did all of this impact K-Kids?
Okay, well, good morning. Pre-pandemic, we had approximately 350 kids on a Sunday, and we had 75 volunteers or so. Now we're looking at, we have about 125 to 150 kids on a Sunday, and our volunteers are down to about 35.
Okay. So there's some good news and bad news in that, because for a while, of course, we shut down the church. Everything was virtual. Then we began to open up. We delayed quite a while on the kids to make sure we could provide a safe environment. So it's good to hear the numbers are coming back, but those numbers are important, 350 and 75 initially, because you have a ratio you want to hit, right?
Yes.
For safety for your kids.
Yep, to keep them safe.
So right now it sounds like, and you guys know where this is going? You know where this is going? You do know where this is going, don't you? We're in a situation right now where I think we're having to turn some families away.
We are, yep. So we are looking for volunteers. We hate to turn any families away. It's much more fun back there for the kids than it is in here. Sorry.
Yep.
And so, we want the parents to have at least an hour to themselves to enjoy the service.
Yep. So it's kind of sad. I mean, the last few weeks, as people are coming back, we are finding that we end up, the option is to go into the great room And that's really not the best ideal thing. That's a room that they can watch it on video. They came here with their kids. They want to come into the service. They want their kids to. So we're here for an ask right now, just for you to consider volunteering. So why don't you tell us, what does it take to volunteer?
Okay. If you've been coming to Kensington for at least 3 months, if you have a heart for kids and families, and also if you love Jesus, we would love to talk to you. And our desk is right out in the lobby, and there's always someone there to answer any of your questions.
Okay, so 3 months, love kids, love Jesus. Do you have to have other skills like coloring?
Yep. Inside and outside the lines.
You can go inside and outside the lines.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
So anyhow, this would be just a great, and the other thing I think is important to say, you don't have to volunteer every week.
No.
You can.
We have some volunteers there once a month.
Once a month, twice a month, whatever. Mm-hmm. Would you could just consider jumping in, and let's get that staff number or volunteer number back up to 75 or 80 so we can fill it out. Because there is room for the kids right now. We just can't guarantee that's a safe environment. So we would love for you to consider joining. And so again, you can either go to the hub, or there's a separate entrance to K-Kids, and you can just meet Sherry and some of her staff there, and you can ask questions, and we can get the ball rolling for you to become part of our program. So before I let you go, we have an event in March that's Family Kids. Why don't you tell us about that?
It is. It's a throwback to roller skating. So March 13th at 1:30 at the rink.
Do you have to know how to skate?
No, that's the fun part.
Actually, all of you that have never skated before, please come. We'd love to laugh at you as you fall down. So anyhow, the information's there. Just go to our website /skate and sign up. We'd love to have you. So thank you. Let's give her a round of applause for... I do want to say that my first understanding of Jesus and profession of faith occurred when I was in a kids program, maybe 5 or 6 years old, and that started a journey that's going on all these years. So what we do there is very important, to love on our kids. So please consider helping us out right now. All right, we're going to move into a new series today. We're going to be talking about the generous way. Would you agree that God is a generous God? Yes. Think about one of the first verses that some of us learned. For God so loved the world that he gave. It's in his nature to give. God is generous. And so we're going to talk about the generous way of living that God invites us to as we experience more freedom, as we release more stuff that keeps us kind of trapped and anxious, and to live open-handed. So we're really excited about this series. But before we do that, I have the assignment for you get every week, which is stand up and be friendly and say hi to people around you.
I thought Craig was going to say 5 or 6 years in kids program. I'm like, you're not pulling that one on anybody, fella. Right? Hey, well, it's good to see all of you. My name's Adam. Glad that you're here with us today. As Craig said, we're starting this new series called The Generous Way. And I think the timing of it is actually fantastic, because if you were with us for the past 4 weeks, you would have heard us talk about these parables or stories that Jesus told. And the reason Jesus told these parables or these stories is because there was biblical truth he could teach in a story. And we entitled that The Power of a Story, because we believe there is power in stories. Matter of fact, today we're going to look at another one a little bit connected to this, as it has to do with our finances. Because I know you guys are sitting there and you're like, oh, hold up. The generous way, right? Like, I know what churches are doing. They're going to talk about the generous way. What are we talking about? Come on, you know. Money, giving, yeah, absolutely. But actually, this isn't a series about money, right? We just want to come right out from the start and say, this isn't a series where we try to guilt or get anybody into thinking that we're after anybody's money, because honestly, that's not it. When we look at the Bible, when we look in the context of what Jesus came, remember we talked about how he came to bring this kingdom. And it's a kingdom that takes the ideas of this world that a king always benefits and receives from his subjects, and he turns it upside down. He says, no, I actually came to serve humanity. I came so that they could have a different kind of life. I think all of us, in this life, we long for things, emotions, feelings, right? Like joy and peace and happiness and all of these different adjectives that describe the type of life that we want to give. And in that, Jesus said, that's why I came. I came because I want to help you walk into that. But what I understand practically from my own life and from reading the text is money is one of those things that can get in the way of that relationship with Jesus. And Jesus knew that. So what he did is he waded right into that subject. He said, I've got something to say, and when I do it, it's not so that I can benefit from humanity. It's so that humanity can find a new way to walk, a different way, and that's what he's inviting us into, and that's what we want to talk about today. So I'm excited that you're here, and glad that you're with us this morning. But before we go any further, I want to take a moment and receive this morning's offering. First, let me say, if you're a guest or you're brand new here, we don't want you to feel like you have any obligation to give. We are so thankful that you are here. But for those of you who call Kensington home, who serve and give and are on mission, we want to say thank you. This morning, Jackie Tomzik, who is head of our guest experience and hospitality side of things at church, shared something that she's involved in. It's called Forgotten Harvest. And every Thursday, her team meets here in the church, and they bring in literally a truckload of food that we are able to give away to people in need. And in 2021, because of people who are on mission with us, because of people who serve and people who contribute, so we have a building and a parking lot that people can come to. We gave away over $1 million worth of food. Yeah. Over 600,000 pounds of food was given, and the only reason that happens is because of those of you who give and serve or on mission. So see, when we talk about serving in kids, it's not just to fill a seat. It's so that people can understand the message of Jesus who he is. So thank you for those of you that do. If you want to give today, we've got boxes as you leave the auditorium, and as always, you can text the number on the screen, go to our website, or download the app and do it in those ways. So today, talking about the generous way, we're going to start out by looking at an account that this guy Matthew wrote. And in it, he was relaying Jesus' words that he had found or understood as he followed God. You see, Matthew is one of the 12 original disciples. I want to give you some context because I think it goes very much deep into the heart of this issue, and we get to understand something that we won't fully realize unless we know a little about Matthew. See, before Matthew met Jesus, he was a tax collector. And we know that's like, hey, right? I need to begin with. Even for us in our context, you write that property tax check and you're like, dirty, right? Like, come on. It's okay. Well, Matthew was that on steroids. You see, in that time, Israel was no longer a nation that functioned under its own rule. See, Rome had come in, and Rome, this big Roman military machine, was looking to expand their kingdom. And what they needed was money. They needed money, so every nation they went after, they would find some of their own people and get them to help get taxes from the people. Some scholars think the Romans taxed the people of Israel up to 75% of what they made, and Matthew was the guy who took it. Now, he was a Jew, so you think Matthew won any popularity contests? People hated Matthew. They probably spit at him. They would, if they had a chance to hit him, they would, because Matthew betrayed his own people in order to gain money from Rome. But in that process, Matthew became incredibly wealthy. Matthew was probably the equivalent of a modern-day millionaire. He had everything he wanted: the best clothes, best horse, best wagon, best food. And all of his people saw him every day, and they looked and they said, Matthew builds his wealth off of the backs of us in service to this Roman occupying authority. People hated Matthew. But see, I think Matthew had a problem with money, and the reason I think that is because his family would have ostracized him. I bet he had conversations with his father where his father's like, you're dead to me because of what you are doing to Rome. And Matthew was okay to do it because what he received was financial gain. Now, I think all of that is important context because Matthew actually writes this account. You see, Matthew had a shift. There was a change inside of Matthew's heart, and he lets us into the detail in the account he wrote about Jesus and his life. So we're going to look at what he says starting out, Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 21. This is what he says. Don't store up treasure here on earth where moth eats them and rust destroys them, where thieves break in and steal. Instead, store your treasures in heaven where moth and rust cannot destroy and thieves do not break in and steal, right? Pretty straightforward, obvious text. But what I find interesting is you read into it. It starts with this do not, right? But it's not the do not that we're accustomed to with the Bible, right? A lot of the do nots we get is do not steal, right? do not disobey your mom and dad. And it's all of these things. But no, what Matthew is communicating in the text that Jesus says is he says, don't store up treasure solely here on earth where it can go bad, where it can wear out, where it can be exhausted, where it's easily lost, and it has no eternal value. But what I find really interesting in this passage is if you think about it, God actually does encourage us to build up treasure. Hold up. Did I just hear what I think I heard in church? Right? Like, God is actually okay with us building treasure, right? Now, he doesn't want this to happen to the detriment of our family or our coworkers or laborers, but God's saying like, hey, if I've gifted you in such a way where you're this entrepreneur and you've got a gift and a talent, or you manage people, or you sell things, and whatever it is, you accumulate wealth. God's like, I'm okay with that. But then he has something to say about the treasure. He's got something to say about where it is he would like us to put it. And I think there's another context, another parable that gives us a really good insight to what Jesus wants us to do with that when it happens. It's found in Luke chapter 12. If you want an interesting read, it would be great to go home and do after this. But I'm just going to give you the brief overview details. Jesus tells another parable, which is a story to communicate truth to the people. And this is how it goes. There's this wealthy man, right? He's a farmer, which in this agrarian type society, if you had more land, if you had more cattle, you were a wealthy person, right? Because practical things were worth money, right? So this wealthy man has great crops year after year, but one year, like something happens and he just so much more than he's ever had. And he's got a decision to make because there's a problem. His crops or whatever are built up, and he's got no place to store them. So it's a good problem to have, right? This man has accumulated treasure. And Jesus isn't telling the parable because that's bad, right? But as this man does this, he's got a decision to make. And what he decides to do is to build bigger barns. He needs to build bigger barns because he has to hold and store all of this stuff he's had, which at first isn't a bad decision. Jesus isn't telling the parable because the guys decided to build barns, but he is telling the parable because the man's decision is why he wants to build barns. See, the man decides that he'd really like to take the rest of his life off. He wants to cruise in on easy street and never have to do anything the rest of his life. So he wants to build barns so that he can take it back, that he can be at ease and never have to worry about anything ever again. You see what Matthew has just described about storing up some of that treasure in heaven is not a thought that's at the forefront of this man's mind. And Jesus doesn't think that's a great idea. Actually, at the end of the parable, this is what he says about a person, about an individual that lives that way. It's in Luke 12:21. He says, a person is a fool to store up earthly wealth, but not have a rich relationship with God. You see, this man in the story didn't care about anything but himself. All of his abundance and all of his excess was going solely to him to make his life easy. And it was storing up treasure here where the moths can eat it, where the rust will take it away. And in the parable, Jesus says the man actually dies that night, but not because of his decision, but because life has such come at him to where he no longer is going to be here. And because of that, all that wealth, all that excess that he had was stored up in the type of place where it rusts, figuratively, of course. And what Jesus is saying is that's not the way. Like when I came and when I brought this kingdom, it was in such a way so that where we store our treasure wouldn't just be a temporary, momentary thing for us exclusively in the moment. No, Jesus is like, there's a better way. And the better way is to take some of that treasure, some of that wealth, and to invest it into eternal things, things that will have lasting value far beyond the time that this man ever would live. I mean, we all talk about that legacy, right? Like, I want there to be a legacy for my children. And what Jesus is saying is not only for your kids, but for humanity in all eternity with the most important message the world has ever known. There's a way that we can press into that. And the way that we do it is concern ourselves not just with the here and now, but with things that are eternal. See, I think Jesus understood the pull that money would have on us. Some people said Jesus talks more about money more than he talks about heaven and hell combined. I'm not sure if that's actually true, but I do know that Jesus spends a lot of time talking about money, and I think this is the reason why. See, I think money, possibly more than anything else, and I'm speaking for me now, has the potential to get in the way of our relationship with Jesus. Right? Like, it's connected and interwoven in our society in such a way where it gets in the way of the thing that Jesus wants to accomplish for us. And where we put our treasure practically is a very good indicator of what's important to us. So much so, that's how Jesus actually ends this passage. In Matthew 6:21, he tells this to the people. After he talks about laying up treasure where it doesn't rust, where it won't break down, where it won't go away, he says this, because wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will be also. Man, that's fair, isn't it? Like if we step back and we're honest and we say, no, I believe this. And we say, okay, great. Now show me your finances. You see, Adam, I can say lots of things. I can talk about what I want to do and practically how I want to help. But then the really good indicator of the position of my heart is to see literally where I'm placing those resources and those assets, right? And what Jesus wants his audience to know is there's a better way. There's a better way where money won't have that tight grip on us, which holds us so closely, where we just have a hard time prying our fingers off of it. And that's what he's trying to invite his audience into. And we'll talk about that more a little bit. But I want to tell you a quick story. Have you ever tried to teach your kids something, and there's this moment where you've put all this energy and effort into it, and it finally comes full circle, and you're like, yes. Right? Like as a parent, I have finally done it. Well, I had one of those interactions with my kids lately. It was around the idea of money. And to give a little context, like my children are finding the value of money far too quickly, right? Like my 3-year-olds will run around with change in their pocket, and if they accidentally lose some or it goes under the couch or they set it there and somebody else grabs it, like all you know what breaks loose, right? Like the tears come, it's a hot mess. Well, whose 17 cents is it? And I'm in the middle of it. I know, right? 17 cents. See, and money has that ability to do that to us. But my older son, Lincoln, we've been teaching him about money, and our family believes that there's a percentage that we should give off the top to the Lord. So we've been starting to communicate that with Lincoln. So when it snowed a couple of weeks back pretty heavily, our neighbor came across, and he said, hey, can you help the lady across the street shovel her driveway? He was a little older, and she was even older, so he thought it would be good for us to help, which we were more than happy to do. So April was here, and she was the one they talked to. Her and Lincoln go over, they shovel the driveway, and the neighbor who asked for help on behalf of the other neighbor gave Lincoln $20, right? And I'm like, oh, great, this is just how it starts. But so if Lincoln comes up to you and tries to sell you drawings, I'm sorry in advance. But anyway, so I thought it was over, right? Then a couple of weeks later, Lincoln comes home from K-Kids with Sherry and her team and what they've taught them. And he says, hey, I heard about these Pokot people that live in Kenya, and they don't have clean water. They don't have enough of what it is that they need. And he said, I would like to take my $20 and I'd like to give it to them. Well, so I do that, and I'm like, oh, wait, if I'm going to tell this message, I need to make sure that it actually happened, right? So Tuesday, I'm sitting at my office, and I call my wife. I'm like, hey, babe, did Lincoln ever give that $20, right? Because I didn't want to do this and then build up. She goes, ooh, I don't know. I think it's still in his drawer. So she calls him over, and I can hear the entire conversation through the phone. She says, hey, Lincoln, did you do anything with that money, or is it still sitting in your drawer? He said, oh, no, Mom and Dad, I took that to church a couple of weeks ago. And I just want to tell you, like my heart was like, yes, he's starting to get it. But then something else happened to me. I started to think about little Lincoln's heart as it relates to this topic. And then I started to think about me. I started to think of that in light of today's message. I found myself having this thought. Why is it that my 8-year-old boy has a better understanding of the heart of God and practically was willing to do this better than his dad? His dad who gets paid to study the Bible. His dad who knows more about Jesus and more about everything written in this book than this little boy knows, yet something inside of him is closer to the heart of God than I am in any way, shape, or form. And I know that he doesn't have the responsibilities that we have, because I think some of you hear that and you can relate. But we have life. We have bills to pay, right? There's food that our little children need to eat. And we hear these things about clean people needing water. And rather than look at my excess or something I don't need, the first thing I do is start to explain to myself or try to convince myself that there's not really a reason that I need to help. But not my son, not my 8-year-old. This $20 represents a huge percentage of what he has. But when he heard about this need, and that practically when the church came in and met it, that these people would have the opportunity to hear about Jesus and it would be much more influential. You know what he decided? He was all in. He was all in. You see, we talked about that percentage, and he would have been well within his rights to say, hey, I want to give this percentage to these people. And we would have clapped for that. We would have encouraged him and we would have excited about him. But no, he saw the need. He saw that this was a place that maybe would be better used for his money and his finances. And he said, I'm all in. I will do that so that these people can have something, so he could contribute to these people having clean water and having the chance to hear about Jesus. Like, if I'm honest for a moment, this is something that just does not come easy to me. But I'm not like Lincoln. And in that, I wondered if I ever was. So I did what I should do. I called my mom. And I told her what happened, and she's all, oh, my grandson. I'm like, okay, be quiet now. This is about me, right? Just stop. And I asked her, I said, was my heart ever more like Lincoln's, right? Because I thought maybe it was, and maybe there's something that happens to it. And she said, honestly, you probably were never that generous. I'm going to catch you all at the door. But she said, you guys were generous. You would always give more and above that percentage that our family had kind of indicated. And so would my siblings, which leads me to the question, what happened to me? And I'm not saying that it's something we need to do, but I am saying there's moments where I see these things, I feel these needs, and there are excesses that I have that could be contributed to. But the first thing I tend to do is start to convince myself of why it's a poor idea, rather than ask God if with the treasure that he's entrusted me to, if this is something that he wants me to do. See, Lincoln's heart was in a far better spot than mine, which makes me ask, what position do I want my heart to be in? Right? Like, if somebody could just come, and I believe this, honestly, and just wave a magic wand in front of me and say, hey, Adam, now you're more generous. You're not going to be concerned with the things of this life. You're not going to be as concerned with the car you drive, the clothes you wear, the things that you do, and you won't care about the people who don't know you that make a judgment about you over them. And I could let go of that in order to be more generous. Would I do that? I think the answer is yes. But in all honesty, I haven't quite found the freedom to get there. And I think Jesus understood that. He understood that money could have this grip on our hearts that would make us hard to walk into this new relationship dynamic that he's inviting us into. And again, it's a dynamic that's not for his benefit, because the truth is God doesn't need our money. He doesn't need any of it, but he knows what that release, what starting to not have such a tight grip on our finances will do to us inside. And it'll start to make us people that are a lot more like what I was, probably what a lot of you, all of you were as a little child, and more like Lincoln. Like, I get it, money is necessary for lives, but I half wonder how often our possessions actually own us rather than we own them. See, the passage here clearly is saying where our treasure is, there the desires of our heart will be also. And this is how I translate that. What I put my resources into is what I'm building. The things that are important to me, what I put my finances to, that's the kingdom that I am building, right? And there's nothing wrong with having finances. There's nothing wrong with having wealth. There's actually even nothing wrong with you using some of that on yourselves. In Ecclesiastes, the Bible very clearly says that wealth, that treasure is a blessing from the Lord, and it is okay for us to enjoy that. So I'm not telling you, don't take that vacation. I'm not telling you it's not okay to buy that car, but there is some dynamic where we need to look at these things that we spend our money, our resources, and our finances through and put it through the lens of Jesus and wonder if our treasure should go to something else Not all the time, but some of it, because I know me, the position of me is I'm a little bit more selfish than I am a little bit more generous. Is having money sinful? No. Is spending it on some of the things that we enjoy wrong? Absolutely not. But when money takes over our heart, I think we find ourselves in a position that God does not intend for us to be. Our production department put together a video that we're going to watch, and it's just a scene where some actors act out some stuff, but I think practically it puts into perspective very much the way God looks at us and the way he views us in this dynamic of our relationship with money. So we're going to take some time and watch this together, and then I'll come out to close us out.
Unbelievable. What a jerk.
Rough day?
Huh? Yeah, try a rough year. What's up? Yeah, I already sent it. Well, it's not my fault they don't check their email. All right, well, I'll check in tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Things not going well, huh?
Yeah, you can say that again.
Well, Josh was out of line during the meeting.
Oh, can you believe that guy?
Josh is going through some rough times.
You know Josh.
Yeah, good guy.
Yeah, if you say so.
You know, John, you weren't on your best behavior either.
How do you know? Have we met before?
It's been a while.
All right, look, no offense, but I have no idea who you are.
None taken. I mean, you've been busy with the Sterling project. And Caleb's been acting up in school. Samantha showing signs of anxiety. And you and your wife have been having arguments about having another child.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Dude, what, were you stalking me?
I just want to help.
Oh, you want to help? Oh, okay, great. You want to help me? All right. Well, if you want to help me so much, why don't you get my wife to understand my side? Or how about you close this deal for me so I can keep my job? Or better yet, why don't you put some cash in my account if you want to help me so much? Why don't you do me a favor? Butt out. Hey, look, man. You're just freaking me out a little with the whole, knowing the whole Sterling thing and Caleb, Sam. And how the heck do you know my name?
Well, your dad wanted to call you Robert, but your mom wanted to call you Jonathan after her favorite uncle. And, well, I guess we know who won those debates, don't we? Little weird, me knowing everything about you, isn't it?
Come on, man.
Every last little detail. Try me.
Oh, you're serious? All right, okay. In 7th grade, I had a crush on a girl named Shannon Wood. And I wrote her a note that asked if she liked me. She had to pick between 3 boxes: yes, no, or maybe. I put the note in her locker after lunch. What did I write the note on?
Peanut M&M wrapper.
Wrong. I wrote on the outside of a Mariah Carey CD that I gave her during Valentine's Day. So there.
Well, actually, that was the second draft. The first draft you wrote on a peanut M&M wrapper the day before, on the bus. I remember when she gave back the note and she had checked no. You were really hurt. Boy, were you mad at me?
Hey, why would I be mad at you? Hey, sir. Are you? Come on. Oh, my God. My you. Huh? Wait a second. Whoa. Am I dead?
No, John, you're not dead.
Okay, well, you know what? In that case, the thing I said about my wife last week, I didn't mean it.
It's okay.
Hey, and then that thing that happened at the restaurant on Saturday, that was not my fault. And in the office supplies in my car that I took from work. Let me tell you something. I was gonna return it.
John,
I was gonna return it. You know I was gonna return it.
it's okay. We can work on that stuff later.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think you need to do to change your life?
I'm not sure. What, move to Africa? Become a missionary?
No, that would be bad for you. How about letting go of some things?
I mean, you think that'll help?
With the way your things are going? Why don't we start with money? Let's take a look in your wallet.
Let's see. I think I only have, I only got 100.
Well, John,
What? Okay, I did not know that was there. Okay, honest.
by the way, happy birthday. I saw that you got yourself an early birthday present.
Yeah, she's beautiful, isn't she? Just had her detailed. Unbelievable acceleration, infotainment system,
Tri-zone, temperature control, the ambient interior lighting. Yeah, you got a lot of nice extras.
All right. Can't believe I'm doing this.
You're doing great. Now, what's in the backpack?
Laptop, quarterly reports, ID card.
I will take your job.
You can have my job.
I mean, I want you to give me your job.
I don't know. Like, this is my livelihood you're messing with. You know, I don't make a lot of money, but I got bills to pay. Insurance, a mortgage.
You have a very nice home, especially with all the work you've done. Subway tiles are a little cliche.
You want my home, don't you? That's a lot to ask.
No one's twisting your arm.
My money, my car, my job, my house. What's next? My family?
You have a good-looking family.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. This is from our vacation to Washington, D.C. My family?
Sounds like a lot, isn't it?
You think? My wife, my kids? You know what, here, take my phone. Take my ring. All right, there you go. You have everything. I have nothing left.
There is one more thing.
What? What were you talking about? I have given you everything. I have nothing else to give you. You want me? I mean, what could you possibly do with me?
You'd be amazed.
All right. Okay, yeah, you can take me too. I'll do it.
Feels better, doesn't it?
Hey, you know what it does? Now what?
Now we can begin. Here.
Wait, what are you doing?
You're welcome. I just want you to remember that these things are all mine, but I'm giving them to you, like a gift. Use them wisely.
Yeah, but you still have my life. I get that back too, or?
Do you really want it back?
I guess I don't. What am I supposed to do with all this?
Check in with me. I'll let you know.
I lean not on my own understanding. My life is in the hands of the Maker of heaven. I lean not on my own understanding. My life is in the hands of the Maker of heaven. I give it all to you, God, trusting that you'll make something beautiful out of me. I give it all to you, God, trusting that you'll make something beautiful out of me.
What I think that video communicated very well is this. We tend to think that God's after our things, but he's not. Know what he's after? Us. Problem is, our things have the ability to get in the way of that happening. You saw that, right, with that man who said, hey, how about your marriage? Not the money. You start to throw it down, and we release it all to him, and then you know what he says? Now I can do something, because God's not after our things. He's after us. He looks at each and every one of us, and he says, hey, if you can find a way to release yourself from that, watch out. Because I can do some pretty amazing, powerful things with a person who isn't even fully arrived, but has an understanding of this concept, is trying to walk closer to him. See, the position of our heart is pretty important, right? We've got all kinds of watches and gadgets and gizmos that measure the status of our heart because it's so important. And what is true for us physically is just as true for us spiritually. See, Jesus isn't after our money. He's after our hearts. But what I think he understood, what I think Matthew started to understand, is our finances, our resources, our treasure will be one of the greatest obstacles in getting in the way of that happening. So what we'd like to do is invite everybody into this thing that we think Jesus shared, and it's called the generous way. So this is my ask of you this week. As you leave here, go home and take some time and look at your credit card statement. Look at your bank account. If you're a checkbook person, that's cool too. But take a peek and see what the things are that we actually treasure. Because what I know, because Jesus said it, is where our treasure is, that's where we can find our heart. Remember Matthew, right? Matthew was in a bad spot. Like, I don't care where you are. Matthew was hard up. Matthew sold out his family, his nation, every person he owned in order to gain wealth. But then he met Jesus, and Jesus offered him a heart check in a way. And when when Matthew saw the position of his heart in the reflection of Jesus and what Jesus came to offer him, what he came to bring to him, something changed. And I'm not sure if Matthew walked right into it. Maybe he did, but I know that there's lots of people far better than me and any of us that didn't get it right away. And that's okay. Because Jesus isn't saying it's going to be an instant download. It's not going to be something that we all get right away. But if we get close to Jesus, if we abide to him, if we draw near to him, I believe, because I've started to see it in me, and I've got a long way to go, But I can find myself in a position where I look at my finances and my life a lot more like my son than I would do on my own. Jesus offered Matthew a heart check, and when he did it, he wasn't after his money. And while that was true for Matthew, it's just as true for each and every one of us here today. And as this series continues on the generous way, I believe that if we really seek God, that he's going to start to nudge us. He's going to start to push us. He's going to start to stretch us, and it might be uncomfortable, and this is probably the topic where it gets more uncomfortable than anything, but that's okay. Because I believe with all my heart, what he's doing is he's inviting us into something better. As you leave, the people at the door are going to have these pamphlets, and they're called the Generous Challenge, and if you open it up, it's going to talk to you about what we want to move through the next couple of weeks. I'm not even going to get into the details of this because my ask for you is just that you go home and you read it. And you think about Matthew. You think about the words that Jesus said. Think about the rich man who only stored up treasure for himself and had no cares or concerns about anything else in the world. And then you say, Lord, is this something you have for me? Because there is going to be an ask, but up front, like telling you, we're going to say, we don't even care if you don't give it to us. Because that's not what it's about. It's not about our church getting more money. It's about us learning to walk in this dynamic that Jesus invites us into, because when he invites us into it, he's trying to teach us about a better life, about this upside down kingdom that he came to bring. And many of us are asking, consider what would generosity look like for me? What would it look like to live generously? And it's a dangerous prayer because it's a prayer that comes with a super practical action. But I believe with all my heart, if we do that, if we seek Jesus, it might make us uncomfortable, it might be hard, but he'll step out in a real way and he's going to teach us something. When we start to learn it, when we start to grasp it, when we start to walk into it, we're going to wonder, why did it take so long for me to find this space? Let's take a moment and pray. Father, this is hard. This is hard stuff. But I really believe that when you invite us into this, you're inviting us into something better. I believe with everything inside of me, there's a way to live that you want every single one of us to know and to experience. And in doing that, it's because you've got something better for us. I pray this week as I take some time, you'll teach me about treasure and what's about really valuable. And you'll start to maneuver my heart more like to the little boy that I used to be, or that my son is, or that many people in this room currently are. Teach me how to be more like you. And my prayer is like that for every single one of us. And I ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
thought by now they'd fall, but you have never failed me yet. Waiting for change to come, knowing the battle's won, for you have never failed me yet. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed me yet. I know the night won't last. Your word will come to pass. My heart will sing your praise again. Jesus, you're still enough. Keep me within your love. My heart will sing your praise again. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed me yet. I've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. 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 Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands.
God doesn't need our money, but he's after our hearts. Hope that as you've heard that today, that's the message that you took. And as you exit, I really hope you'll grab one of these on your way out and really just start to prayerfully consider not what Adam says, not what Kensington says, but you'd start to ask God what it is he might want for you, for me to do, and how we could move in this way to go a little bit deeper into that relationship that he's inviting us into. And I know with this, we get a little anxious. We get a little nervous, but God actually speaks to that. We're going to talk about it next week. So in this, I want to invite you back to hear this part. There's a therefore in the Bible. When you hear therefore, it means listen. And God says, don't be anxious. It's directly connected to this topic. And that's what we're going to discuss a little bit about next week. Hey, if you need somebody to pray for you, our prayer team's going to be down here in the front, whether it's about money, finances, life, whatever it is. We would love for you to come down and share that with us and allow somebody on our team to pray for you. But if not, we hope you guys have a great Sunday, and we'll see you back here next week when we get into part 2 of this. Thanks for coming, guys. Have a great week.